on Instagram.
Yeah.
Wait, Sophie's just gonna. Oh yes. Hello. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I said I was gonna go live 10 o'clock this morning, and I am live. And please share, tell everyone. I'm going to look at 7 things that young people do which affect their GCSE grades. It makes their GCSE grades to be low, but if you can avoid these things, yeah, I'm just going to call my daughter to come and help me capture some of it on YouTube as well, on Facebook as well. I'm going to be live on Facebook. I'm going to record it as this section as well so that I can upload it later on. Okay, like I was saying, people, the 7 things that some people do, some young people do when they take an exam that affects them, that lowers their GCSE grades is what I want to talk about. I'm also live on Instagram. For those people who follow me on Instagram, they will see that I'm live. Please tell your friends, share this, tell them to come on. I'm going to discuss this. Even if you're not taking GCSEs, yeah, all I'm about is, even if you're not taking GCSEs this year, you're in year 10, even those in year 7, it's never too early to start. Some of my year 7 students, when I teach them some topics, I actually would pull out a question paper, GCSE paper, and show them how this is relevant, where this is relevant, or how where they can find this on the exam paper. I'm just gonna try and go live here. How to avoid the 7 things that could hinder your GCSE grades. Your GCSE grades is what I'm doing right now. Okay, that's what I'm doing, and I'm gonna go live on okay. I was trying to see if I could go live on Facebook as well, but I need another equipment to do that. I'm working on it. I'm sorting out these things. So today I'm going to look at these 7 areas. So I'm going to do it as a very short video later on. Just post it so lots of people can watch as well. The first thing, the number one thing that people do, lots of young people, they don't read the front cover instruction. They do not read front cover instruction. Every exam that a person takes, any exam you take in life, you're always given instruction as what to expect, how to answer the questions. Now, some of those are questions that you will be answering. You would answer them better when you read the instruction at the front. The booklet that you're given, for instance, in maths, papers are some papers are what do you call it, calculator allowed. Some of them are non-calculator paper. Some students just feel, oh, this is maths, I'm not allowed calculator. They don't bother, or they don't realize, oh, this the difference between calculator questions, calculator allowed questions, and non-calculator allowed questions. In a number of instances, especially the foundation people, where lots of students make most of these mistakes, the questions you answer on the calculator paper might be questions that require you to solve a question on 3 levels, or you might be working with decimal numbers, or, decimal numbers. If you want to do a division or you want to do a multiplication, it might be something you do over 2-3 times before stages before you get the final answer. But whereas on the non-calculator paper, it might be something you can just divide very straightforward or very easily. So students don't know that. So when they get stuck, they haven't read the instruction at the front of the paper to realize that this is a calculator allowed paper. Then they get frustrated and they leave the question. So the way to avoid this is simple. When you're giving your paper, before the examiner allows you to start answering the questions, you're allowed to write your name, your school code, and everything on the front of your booklet. That is the time you also read the instruction. Read the instructions very carefully, and then that will set you in the mode. Then it's also psychological. You kind of relax and get ready to start your paper. You're not panicking. So make sure you read it. That's number one error to avoid. All right. Number two is students avoid 6-mark questions. Many students avoid 6 marks questions. In math, if they're given a question that's 4 marks, 5 marks, they don't even bother. Or if they see a big drawing, say a large structure drawn in maths, and they're wondering, where do I start from? They just avoid it. They don't bother to read it. In science, you have 2 6-mark questions on biology, 2 6-mark questions on chemistry, 2 6-mark questions on physics. Take the biology paper, for example. By avoiding the 2 6-mark questions, you lose 12 marks. A total of 12 marks will just go like that. 6 marks is enough to raise your grade from one level to another. As a matter of fact, 1 mark is so important because 1 mark is the difference between the grade before and the next one below above it. So every mark is important. They avoid 6-mark question. From today, please take it on board. Do not avoid 6-mark questions. Do not avoid the 6-mark questions. Read the 6-mark questions. Underline it. I have a video where I just focused on 6-mark questions, and I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again as we go countdown on the GCSE. Questions are so important. Read them. When you read the 6-mark question, highlight the keywords, highlight the exam command words like describe, explain, compare and contrast, state advantages and disadvantages. Those are the command words you'll be looking for, and you underline them. In biology, most of the time they'll draw the structure. They might draw the structure of the nephron, the kidney, how the kidney works to remove toxic substances and excess water from the body, how urine is produced. They might give you a drawing of the nephron, and they'll ask you to explain the different sections. Don't allow that structure to throw you off balance. Don't allow that structure to make you not to want to read the question. Read the question. As a matter of fact, the longer the question, the easier it is to answer if you practice. Yeah, because you realize that inside that question, you find the keywords that's going to help you to answer the question. Even if it's a question you're not too sure about, still read it. Still read it and see how you can pick up some of those marks. Don't just leave it blank. What I don't like is students, where the pitfall is, where the danger is students who just leave that question blank because it's 6 marks. They don't even bother to read it. Sometimes when I get students to read it again and read it for the second time, they say to me, "Oh, miss, I'm beginning to understand it." I'm saying, there you go. You need to read it. There are some students who write the higher paper, and then they might score about 80%, 85%, whereas they could have scored 90% or 95%. They lose on marks. Now, why I strongly believe is that if you are able to achieve 100% on a paper, please achieve 100% on that paper. There is no reason why you should not achieve what you're capable of achieving on the paper. So do not avoid 6-mark question. That's one error. That's one error that you need to watch out for. Read through your 6-mark question and answer it. Another point that I want to look at is they avoid calculation questions in science. Some young people avoid the calculation question. Now, this is a big, big issue, the calculation questions. Please do not avoid the calculation questions. Answer all the calculation questions because they are easy to answer. The main areas, the main areas of focus of these questions include standard form, which I did yesterday. They include standard form. You have questions on standard form. You have questions on averages. You have graph questions. And you have estimates and significant figures. Estimate and significant figures. And then you have, I've done averages, I've done standard form and order of magnitude, and then simple probability. You also have simple probability, okay? Simple probability, probability. Now, these are very simple maths topics. I looked at some of them yesterday when I did the maths question revision. I will be looking at some of those areas again as I go along in this countdown to GCSE. So what I'm saying in a sense is the maths questions will always be there. And I'm going to give you the percentages. On your chemistry, on your biology paper, you're going to have 10% questions that require math skills. On your chemistry question, you're going to have 20%, and on your physics paper, it's going to be 30%. Areas that require your math skills. That is a huge part of your paper. And if you already have these maths topics under your wings, if you've already sorted them out, I looked at standard form, significant figures, I look at estimates and things like that, simple probability, averages. These are really straightforward questions. Most of the questions in science, they'll give you a graph or they'll give you the data. Also, sometimes I refer to it as data questions. They'll give you a data and you need to compare, which is actually the next one I'm going to talk about, because I'm talking about that as a major area where students shortchange themselves on the GCSE paper in terms of maths and science. So the fourth one is a number of students do not use a calculator when they write the science exam. Let me explain what I mean by that and why it is a problem and how you can turn that problem into something positive for yourself. Because if you understand the problem, then you can avoid it. So the fourth one is they fail to use a calculator. Do you know how many students I have had to tell, pick up the calculator? You allow the calculator when you're writing your science exam. Physics, chemistry, biology exam, you allow the calculator. You will not believe how many students I have to keep reminding that they need a calculator. So on the exam day, when they go into the exam, they meet with a calculation question, they just feel, oh, how am I going to start working out the average of these numbers, or how am I going to know the percentage and things like that? Another one I left out is percentage. Percentage is another huge topic as well, the area of math skill that's covered on the science papers. All right, they go, oh, how am I going to work out this percentage? And then they just leave it. You are allowed the calculator. Please use the calculator so you don't avoid a lot of questions. Remember 10%, 20%, and 30% areas of your physics, biology, physics, chemistry, and physics in that order. Those are huge. So at the end of the day, you don't want to miss out on those questions. You want to answer all of those questions. That brings me to number 5. They avoid data questions. Number 5 is data questions. Please, please, and please do not avoid data questions. Data questions are a must in capital letter. They are a must in capital letter. Do not avoid data questions. Reason being that data questions are easy to answer. Data questions are easy to answer, because you're just looking at the data and then you're explaining what the data says in accordance with how the question has been asked. What I find makes students avoid that is because they don't understand certain keywords. The keywords are variables. Once they see that keyword, they just go war and they leave it. Variables just mean the factors that was being studied. Say, for instance, you have a graph that shows you the rate of reaction, say, of maybe it was disappearing cross, and then this is your increasing concentration, or maybe yes, your increasing concentration. Let's say this is the different concentration of the acid. So maybe 1 mole, 2 mole, 3 mole, like that. So let's say the higher the concentration, let's say the quicker the reaction. This will not show the quicker the reaction, isn't it? So which means if you had so yeah, so as you increase the concentration, so if you have this rate of reaction here. So this is now if you were increasing the concentration and the time was getting smaller, it would show you a correlation. Let's say it was not rate of reaction. Let's say it was a different thing because I haven't looked at this. Okay, let's say it was some. Let's say you had a rate of reaction anyway. Let's say you had a rate of reaction and you had a graph drawn like that. Now, what that means, what this graph will show is that as you're increasing it, the rate is also getting faster. Now, if you have a graph like so, or you're given a graph that's where you have bar charts drawn, you have an information here. What I'm just trying to show you is that this concentration is a variable, and the time taken. So let's say that's the time taken, and the time taken for the reaction as well is on that side. This time is a variable, the concentration is a variable. I was just making this up from my head. Or if you have a data that's represented in form of bar graphs, and you're giving years, say 1991 to maybe 2009, say that was the range of dates, and then maybe this was the way this was how many rainfall, for instance. Let's say this was the quantity of rainfall, right? There will be numbers here to show you. Say this was 100 centimeters cube of rain, and that's maybe 120. That's less than 100. So they can ask you between 2009 and 1991 and 2009, how did the amount of rainfall increase, or in which year did you have the highest amount of rainfall? By just now that those years are variable against the rainfall, which is another variable. So the variable that was changing was the rainfall. All right. So this was the amount of rainfall or per period. Now, if you're giving that sort of a data, the variables, the keyword variables that's put in the question should not the factors that were being studied, that were being considered, that were controlled, that were measured. Those factors, because we have constant variables, we have dependent variables, and we have independent variables. I'm going to look at those in details in another video. Now, I'm just using that as one keyword that throws students off balance. Another one is correlation. Correlation, right? Correlation just means the relationship between the two sides of the graph. When that is increasing, is that increasing? Or when that is increasing, is that one decreasing? Is there a correlation between the two variables? Can you see a positive correlation, or can you see a negative correlation? Now, those keywords should not throw you off balance. When you see data questions, try and look beyond the keywords. Do not allow the keywords to stop you. Because if you look beyond the keywords and just read through the entire question to understand the meaning and look at the data you've been presented, you can use the data to answer the question. Most of the time, data compare two variables. They show you how a change in one affects another. And then you use that to explain. And another thing I want to quickly add, which I did not write down when I was writing my notes for this video, is I just remembered sometimes they might ask you to draw a certain conclusion. They might ask you to draw a certain conclusion or write a what looks like a quick prediction. All right. Now that's easy. Just look at what the data say. Just look at the information and then and use that to predict what the outcome will be or to predict why they got that particular outcome. Say, for instance, if they show you that the number of prey were decreasing at a particular time, then try and see if the number of predators were increasing in an environment. If the number of predators are increasing, chances are that the number of prey will be decreasing because the animals that eat them, the prey, are eating a lot more of them. And eventually, maybe because there were so many of the predator, that led to the reduction of the prey. That might be the reason why most of the predators might move away. If they move away, that will create an avenue of time, an opportunity for the prey community to increase again. So you look at those changes on the graph and you can use that to make a prediction. So correlation, just say, when is the word correlation? They're asking you to compare and to check whether there is a relationship between variables that were under study. So that's one thing about data questions. They're very easy to answer. Please do not avoid them. Again, I don't want to go beyond 30 minutes, so I got two more. I'm going to quickly finish them. Number 6 point that affects young people is, in English, when they're asked to write, about an essay, or in 6-mark questions, or in science, they don't plan. So they do not plan their answers. What do I mean by plan? When you're answering a 6-mark question or 12-mark questions, sometimes you're asked a 12-mark or 24-mark questions in English language. I'm not an English teacher, but I've worked with a lot of people, young people. 6 marks in science, 6-mark questions in the 3 sciences, 2 on each paper, like I said. And then you can also have 12-mark questions on philosophy and ethics. Philosophy and ethics. These are the areas that young people have told me to help them. Now, I tell lots of young people, read a lot of articles and then practice. Use old papers. Now we're taking the new GCSEs. We don't have old papers, but we have the assessment materials that have been written by the exam board. Read through them very carefully so you get into the style of the exam. I am going to do the importance of revision papers in one of my videos. I'll just quickly mention it here. Use revision papers. That is, use the assessment materials that have been released by the exam board to practice. And then you plan your answers. Plan your answers by jotting your points down. So when you read the questions, don't just rush into it. Give yourself 2 minutes, 2 solid minutes that can lift how many marks you get from, I don't know, a few to a lot more. Trust me, rather than end up with 5 out of 12 or 5 out of 20, by just planning your questions very well, your answers very well, you can actually get 12 out of 12 or get like 20 out of 24. So list them, make a quick draft so that you can write them in order. If you're writing about your favorite food or what you love the most, or you're writing a debate, you're debating and because of that, you want to be sure that you list out your points and take in order. Take them and explain them. If you don't go to discuss the previous paper, they discuss the paper that they've just done. Please do not do that. You know the reason why? That they've just done. Please avoid that mistake. There is no need to discuss your answers, because when you start to discuss your answers, it will be in the sense that you might start feeling very bad about the answers you've written, and that will affect your preparation for the next paper. If you write your first biology paper, you still have 5 others to go. You still have a second biology, 2 chemistry, 2 physics ahead of you. You have your maths to do, you have your English to do. You do not want anything to upset you. There is no point. You cannot go and change the marks or the answers you've already written down. So you want to focus on the paper ahead of you. Because students come out of the exam and they start to discuss. The other students you're discussing with, they're not the examiners, they're not the ones to mark your paper, they're not even the teachers. When my students come out of the exam and then I really just ask them what question to say, you know what, that's all right. If they start discussing it with me, what they've written, oh, miss, was this right? Was that wrong? I just say to them, there is no need for us to discuss it because we need to focus on the next paper. That's my own opinion. That's what I feel helps my students a lot. Because it might depress some students to go, oh, I have messed up in that paper, so now I can't carry on to do the other one. No, do not go. There is no need to go over paper that you've already done, especially by asking other students how they wrote, how they feel about your answers. You might not even remember exactly the way you wrote it. So there is really no reason, there is no point in going over this. Don't do like, I encourage them to use assessment materials. I have found a way to put that in. Revise, look at the driving test on paper. Your most tests that have been released by the question you're not sure. Please ask your tuition at home. Attempt questions and bring it to your teachers. I'm always happy when students bring certain questions to me and say, oh, miss, this was what I wrote. Can you check it for me? Yes, that is the time to check before the exam. And then I'm just throwing in a bonus. Keep positive. Keep positive. Keep saying to yourself, I must pass. I can do this. I'm going to do it. For example, on the first of my third day running, on the 1st of April, I started a 30-day challenge for myself to lose some amount of weight. I'm targeting to lose 2 stones. I have set it high, top self. I'll do it and keep going. Keep going. Do not stop what I wanted to do. And that's what I'm doing. Thank you for joining.